answering your tough financial questions for the past 26 years. It's Allworth's Money Matters with co-hosts Scott Hanson and Pat McClain. Would you like an opinion on a financial matter you're dealing with? Whether it's about retirement, investments, taxes, or 401ks, Scott Hanson and Pat McClain would like to help you by answering your call. To join Allworth's Money Matters, call now at 833-99-WORTH. That's 833-99-WORTH.
Welcome to Allworth's Money Matters. I'm Scott Hanson.
I'm Pat McClain.
Thanks for being part of the program today. Our last show of 2019.
It is.
Both myself and my co-host here, we're both financial advisors, certified financial planner, chartered financial consultant. Spend our weekdays with people like yourself and come here on the weekends to be your financial advisors on the air. So whether you have an advisor you're working with now or advisors or you doing things yourself and just want to increase your education, we are glad you're part of our program. And frankly, this show would not be as good without our listeners.
We tried to do a couple shows with without
callers,
and I found it boring. That's just talking.
Well, you know what I appreciate about the call? By the way, if you want to join us, our contact number is 833-99-WORTH, 833-99-WORTH. And I was talking to somebody, I said, the calls are pre-screened to make sure they're good, but I don't review to see what's going on ahead of time. It's just kind of fun to see what the question is. And it's one of the things I enjoy about being a financial advisor all these years. While I personally don't have many clients that I work with personally, I enjoy kind of some of it's a bit of a puzzle, trying to navigate. There's a lot of things to navigate through, and I find it interesting.
Yes.
Intellectually challenging.
It's
stimulating, I should say.
This has got to be 8 years ago. We met with a program manager at a radio station, and he said, boys, you need to quit taking calls because people just want to listen to you. And the calls are distracting. They break up the show. And I'm like,
I remember that.
I'm like, well, how's that work with this a financial talk show? This is not an infomercial where we try to sell you on a particular product. The calls,
and nor is it an opinion show where we're talking about political opinion, or it's not just us dispensing our opinion.
We are dispensing an opinion around financial topics.
Yeah, but it's not like, and I think at the time the trend was that, your typical talk show where it's about politics or whatever's going on in the day, and you get other people will call with their opinion. And I got to admit, sometimes I'm listening to, and I don't listen to a lot, but sometimes I listen to a program and someone calls, and I'm like, I don't care about I actually care about the host's opinion because I find him interesting or her interesting, but the callers I don't always find terribly interesting. But I think this is a very different thing because the situations tend to be interesting.
People's financial situations.
It's their financial life, not their opinion on whether the GOP's doing the right thing or the Democratic Party or whatever. That's irrelevant.
We tried it for 2 or 3 weeks without phone calls, and we found
I think it was longer
quite frankly, I hated it.
Well, I don't like hearing you talk that long. I know that.
Nice. All right, let's get to these calls then. If you'd like to join the show, 833-99-WORTH. That's 833-999-6784.
Yeah, let's start off here in the Bay Area. We're talking with Debbie. Debbie, you're with Allworth's Money Matters.
Hi, guys. Thanks for taking my call. Hope I don't sound too boring.
Thank you.
So here's my question. My husband and I decided very early on that one of us would stay at home, be the stay-at-home parent. Now that our kids are up and gone, we had some questions about retirement. My husband has a school retirement, although he's also worked definitely more than one job over the years, and he's paid into Social Security.
Mm-hmm.
It's our understanding that he's not going to be able to access that, but as the non-working spouse, would I be able to access that, and is it any different if we're divorced?
No different if you're divorced. you can receive a spousal benefit on it, but the spousal benefit is going to be roughly 50%, assuming it was taken at the normal retirement age, 50% of the Social Security benefit. So your husband will receive some benefit from Social Security.
And he paid into STRS, not PERS, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
And did not pay, and while he was paying into STRS, did not pay into Social Security.
No, he did.
Not through the job as a teacher at a school, but he paid in through other side jobs that he had into Social
Correct.
Security. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, but probably if you look at each year, it was a small amount in the side jobs.
No, actually, it wasn't. That's the deal, is that he's always worked from his computer. So as long as his computer is open, he's working.
Okay.
And there were years that he did as much in that side income that he did as working as a teacher.
Okay. So there's benefit. How old is he now?
He is 52.
And when do you plan on retiring?
He's actually going to be retiring in the next 3 years.
From school? Is he going to
Correct.
retire from the part-time work?
He's already left the part-time work. So, yeah, it'll be more like a full-time retirement when he does retire.
Okay.
But he may work on the side just to stay busy.
And do you have any... Scott?
It sounds like, Debbie, your concern is what you want to try to figure out. It sounds to me like there's maybe some challenges in the marriage, and your concern is that what Social Security benefit might you have at when you hit normal retirement age,
Sure.
right? That's
Well, I didn't hear that.
she asked about divorced.
I know, but I was thinking that that it may not be about divorce other than is there more benefit coming to the family if there is a divorce?
You know, it's a few things. It's maybe just the fundamental unfairness of being a stay-at-home parent and having the other parent work as though the stay-at-home parent is working. You know, it's still two incomes in the same household, but the benefit winds up being reduced because
Got it.
one of us were home full-time.
Okay. So
And I'm not trying to justify a good, bad, right, wrong. The reason for that is because there's one person paying into Social Security and the other person was not paying into Social Security.
Right.
but so the
But they were paying into Social Security in addition to paying into their own retirement that
Yeah, so
as far as
it's called
the rules, he
yeah.
cannot pull that
No,
retirement.
Well,
but
you
that's
can.
not that's not necessarily true because the rules, Scott, you want to talk
it's
about?
called a windfall elimination provision, which I know you really love the term of that because you're already talking about this doesn't feel fair. It's a windfall elimination provision, which essentially it doesn't enable someone to double dip, and the reason it's a complicated formula. But they've determined that those who are paying into, say, STRS, State Teachers Retirement System, and not paying into Social Security, that during the time they should not get benefit from those years. But when there are periods when they're paying into Social Security at the same time, they will get benefit. As an example, there are other government jobs where people pay into both the government retirement and into Social Security, and they get credit for their Social Security.
So part of that is because there is no dollars actually going into the Social Security. So this windfall elimination provision that you actually read about, if you look this up, if you go to some sort of search engine and look up the windfall elimination provision, because his income was almost equivalent to his teaching income over those years, won't be affected that much by the windfall elimination provision. It's not like they said, oh, you know, Debbie's husband doesn't get any benefit because he had this other job. He'll get all the benefit from that.
It's gonna this will be a challenge for you in your own planning for retirement, though.
For Debbie's or
Yes.
them as
for
a
Debbie,
couple?
and particularly if you end up splitting up.
Yes.
Okay.
But it's community property. Everything that was acquired in the marriage is half yours,
As his pension.
as is his Social Security as well on this particular situation. So if you're going through a dissolution of a marriage, everything that was acquired in community property is half yours, including Social Security and pension benefits.
Okay.
Does that help? But that
It does.
but the benefit, the windfall elimination provision, it's designed for someone to not have had paid into Social Security, to not receive Social Security benefits under a normal grid, right? That's what it's for. But because your husband's income was equivalent on both sides, it won't be affected to the degree that it normally would on a windfall elimination provision.
Okay.
But it's not. In order to estimate what the value of that Social Security and the windfall elimination provision will be on the both of you going forward, will take a little bit of work.
Okay.
All righty?
Well, I will read up on that. Thank you.
All right, Debbie.
appreciate that.
Wish you well. And a couple things I was thinking about this.
I'm sorry, Scott. That's a hard conversation to have on the radio.
Yes. I mean, they're hard. It's a challenging thing. What I can say is I was thinking of two things there. One, if someone's going through divorce, if you're finding yourself in that position, you need to realize that not all assets are equal. So, as an example, let's say $100,000 in an IRA is not the same as $100,000 of equity in a house.
Why, Scott?
Well, the way we need to look at things from an after-tax perspective. That IRA will be taxed one day at whatever one's marginal tax rate is at that particular time, so or effective tax rate. So it could be that that $100,000 IRA is only worth $75,000 or $85,000 or $65,000 or $50,000, depending on what someone's tax rate is. The $100,000 of equity in a house, a home could have up to $500,000. A married couple can have $500,000 of gain excluded from taxation when they sell a home.
So $100,000 of home value is actually worth approximately
$100,000
minus a commission fee in order to dispose
6 or 7%, yeah.
right? So if you look at the three kind of values in assets, and Scott, how many times have you seen people come in and say
all the time?
Okay, I'm getting a divorce. I'm taking the $100,000 in the IRA.
And by the way, if you're getting divorced, you want to seek some independent financial counsel at the same time.
And we see this oftentimes drafted by attorneys that think about the law and not about the finances behind
Well,
it.
a lot of them are.
So-
I'm not an attorney. I don't understand divorce law. They're not financial advisors. They don't understand investments and the taxation.
And at the same time, if you had $100,000 in the savings, in a regular savings account, what's the value of that? It's $100,000, right? So we have three things.
And if you have $100,000 in a mutual fund, it may not be worth $100,000 because you got to
Depends
think
on
what
how
the
much-
after-tax amount is.
How much gain is in it?
It's quite common where you'll have a couple say, "Well, you take this asset and I'll take that asset," because that's worth the same. But
you
they're
have-
not.
You have to bring everything into its after-tax or liquidation value in order to determine,
An equitable split.
yes, in the dissolution of a marriage.
So, and the second thing I was thinking about with Debbie's comment, her call, and I've been thinking about this, and maybe it's just the stage of life that I'm in. So I'm in my early 50s, as my wife is. My wife worked for 5 years. She got a degree in finance, worked for Intel for 5 years, got pregnant, and she decided to stay home and be a stay-home mom. That's what she wanted to do, which I supported. And when our youngest natural child went to college, she could have went back in the workplace if she wanted, but she chose not to, and we just didn't need to from a financial standpoint. But certainly have encountered many clients and a lot of people in our peer group that one has stayed home, and now at this time, it's really important that one goes back to the workplace, or there's a divorce. And someone like Debbie, who had called, who had all these years out of the workforce, bright, skilled, intelligent, oftentimes college educated, had a career, put their career on hold, and it is challenging for them to re-enter the workplace.
It is much more difficult.
And I've often thought, and maybe there are some programs, but you don't certainly hear about many programs that can really help somebody prepare to re-enter the workforce, like maybe brushing up on the latest computer programs, software programs or whatnot. But it's one of those areas that
And
I find it very challenging. And it's typically the woman.
and
And I feel, and sometimes I see them going. I see other women going to some of these jobs that they could be doing so much more, and I'm thinking it's a shame they're kind of settling for this job because they've been out of the workplace for so many years.
but Scott, it's also that, and I've seen this a couple of times with friends of mine, that the spouse has to re-enter the workforce and they don't want to. But that's not actually, they're like, well, I'll just get paid alimony. That's actually not how it works. It's the amount of money you could make
You mean on a divorce?
on a divorce. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
That's
it's,
challenging.
yeah. But from a financial standpoint, don't get divorced. I mean, spend the money on counseling first. It's going to be a lot cheaper than everything else. I mean, if you can avoid that, and obviously to find a way to have some peace and joy in your life living with this other person, that is clearly something beneficial rather than financially. It is disastrous because now you've had an income that has supported one household, and now you've got to do two households. It's very expensive. Let's continue on here. 1-833-99-WORTH is the number. We're in Denver talking with Cheryl. Cheryl, you're with Allworth's Money Matters.
Well, hello, Scott and Pat.
Hi,
it's
Cheryl.
a pleasure to speak with you.
Oh, well, thank you.
I love your podcast, and I greatly appreciate the conversations and advice that you offer.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you. You can keep talking all day.
So I have a question for you regarding Roth conversions. My husband, who's age 59, and I, who is age 58, are in a position to retire early next year in 2020. We plan on using non-qualified assets to provide income for approximately the next 5 years. And beginning in 2021, we will not have any earned income, but we will have some long-term capital gains, and therefore I'm hoping to convert a couple of small traditional IRA accounts to Roth accounts. And I believe the tax consequences will be very low, if any, on these conversions, which leads me to my question. Do the current tax laws allow for rollover 401k assets to be converted to Roth accounts?
Yes.
Yes, they do.
Now, I understand. Okay, they do.
Yes.
And I understand that taxes have to be paid upon that conversion.
Yes. Yes.
So,
well, okay. We'll walk through the
So
mechanics.
essentially-
Keep asking the questions, but we'll walk through the mechanics of it here in a second.
okay, sure. So essentially, with no earned income starting in 2021, I'm looking at those conversions being conceivably having no taxes. And then my question was, or does it trigger income for income tax purposes?
Yes. and
Which
no.
I'm assuming it would.
Yeah, well, it could.
Okay.
So, and Cheryl, you are thinking the exact way that we would be thinking as financial advisors. I mean, this is perfect planning, right? So you've got some money saved up in your retirement plans, your IRAs and 401ks. You have some money outside of those. You're thinking, our taxable income is going to be peanuts for the couple years. What a great opportunity for us to convert to Roth. Whenever someone has kind of an anomaly, a year or two or three or whatnot, with very low taxable income, whether it's due to a retirement like this, or it's due to unemployment or a health issue, it's a phenomenal opportunity to take some money in a retirement account and convert it to a Roth. And by doing so, you're able to essentially lock in some of your retirement assets at a very low tax rate today. You pay a small tax rate today in exchange for the promise of tax-free growth in the future.
And the beautiful thing about this is you're going to do it at age 61. So there's a window even before you have the opportunity to take Social Security that is even better. So let's dig into this. Give us some numbers. So let's break them into two camps. Qualified, which
IRAs,
means,
401ks, 403bs.
so when we say the word qualified, it's tax qualified. How much money do you have in those combined between the both of you?
It's about 1.65 million.
Okay. And then dollars outside of that, including monies in savings and brokerage accounts, how much is in that account, which we would call non-qualified?
So, well, there's a couple of different buckets. We have 50,000 already in a Roth. We have another 250,000 that's in an inherited Roth.
It's in an inherited, excuse me?
And
Roth.
Okay.
it's inherited Roth.
Yeah, don't take any more than the required minimum on that one.
Right, exactly. And then we have about 650,000 in non-qualified brokerage accounts.
All right. And I assume no debt.
And the only debt we have is our house, which we're downsizing in probably 3 to 5 years. So I'm not worried about that component. At
Okay.
I mean,
this point.
this is such a great, and you have no pension.
No pension.
That's unfortunate.
Okay.
That's not great, obviously.
And you have $650,000 in non-qualified. How much in savings or cash or anything like that?
Unfortunately, most of it's in stocks.
Well, I don't think that's unfortunate.
Right now. And well, I mean, it's a good thing and it's a bad thing. I have to, so the plan is for the next 5 years to live off those assets, but I have to liquidate those, and I have to do so prudently so that I don't get hit with a big capital gains tax.
It's perfect.
So that's
Yeah,
a consideration. I have
and
to
remember
take into
this.
account.
Remember this, Cheryl, as well. If you have all the stock or S&P 500 in these non-qualified accounts and you go to liquidate them at a bad period of time, that you can replicate that position in your IRA.
Yeah.
So
So you can still have a long-term hold, even though you plan on spending those dollars in the next 5
right.
years.
So if you have a portfolio in your IRA, let's say that's 70% stocks and 30% bonds and cash, and all your money in your brokerage account is actually in stocks, and we're into a down market where it's down 10 or 15%.
And you're like, I don't want to have to sell my fund.
You would just replicate it in the brokerage account, or excuse me, in your IRA,
you're
and
not-
sell some bond off so that you actually keep the allocation the same throughout the whole process. So just that's an
okay.
aside. That's an aside. So let's
Sure,
actually address
sure.
this Roth issue. Great planning technique.
And so when you go to and the way the tax rates work, Cheryl, and it probably make a little sense to kind of brush up on them. Just trying to think what tools, resources we have online. I know that we've got something online that goes into pretty good depth on some of the taxation, but it's because of with recent tax changes, we have if we're married, we have a standard deduction that's about $22,000, $24,000, somewhere in there. So we could have that much income with zero taxes. Then there's another 10,000 or so that's at a 10% tax rate,
Yes.
and then it goes to 12%, and then it bumps up from there. So what the kind of planning needs to do is you might be willing to say I'll have some money even in a 12% tax rate. These are the kind of things that you need to do some long-term projections with.
So the first thing you have to do is determine how much money you're going to need to live on and how much you're going to take off the brokerage account. That's the first thing you need to do. Then you decide whether you're going to convert the difference. Let's say you say, oh, I need $50,000 a year to live off the brokerage account. Then we actually then would look to see whether it makes sense to convert all of those dollars, the difference in that marginal tax rate, to a Roth or not.
Just some.
At some level. So whether it's at zero tax or wherever we are in the tax.
Because here's the challenge. we've got 1.6 million in brokerage accounts now. Let's assume that over the next decade, you earn 7%. That 1.6 is going to be 3.2. Now you've got a required minimum distribution that's roughly $100,000 the first year.
Mm-hmm.
So my guess
Yeah.
is if we were going to do this analysis, we would decide to pay some tax. We would take obviously all that it's zero,
Yeah.
and then we'd run up the flagpole in order to.
You're
or
thinking the
waterfall.
exact things you need to be thinking, and you're probably going to be best suited to have either a great tax advice, I would think a good tax planner, and maybe a good financial planner at the same time, helping you through this analysis. Or if you're really good at doing with the TurboTax or one of the other tax programs, you're going to have to run the numbers, but because this is a great strategy, it'll work for you, and it's the right thing to be thinking about. And you're clearly done a great job. And you're thinking about the right things. You're just going to have to run the numbers to see the best strategy. We're going to take a quick break. Stick around for more Allworth's Money Matters.
Can't get enough of Allworth's Money Matters? Visit allworthfinancial.com/radio to listen to the Money Matters podcast.
Welcome back to Allworth's Money Matters. I'm Scott Hansen,
I'm Pat McClain.
and glad you're sticking around. And if you want to go to would like to join our show, would love to take your call. 833-99-WORTH. That's 833-999-6784. We'll get you on the program. And before we go to back,
Scott, may I for a second here?
Maybe.
Before we get on the air,
Maybe.
right?
Yeah.
We're on the air. You say, let's go. And I say, I'm making notes. You look at me and you say, let's go. And I'm making notes of things I want to talk about. And you say, let's go. And you turned. I said explicitly, wait a second. And then you just hit the live button and start the show. Have you no patience? How long have we worked together? You just pretended.
Pat, that is you. So the other day, I'm in the car with my kids talking to you briefly for something.
Okay.
Now, Pat has the patience. You think come on.
Okay. That's
So, Pat, when you're talking to him on the phone, he often will hang up before the conversation's over. He thinks it's done, and his conversation's over. So you're talking. I gotta go back. And so I'm in this like this last week. I'm talking to you. I don't talk to Pat that often with others in the car, but we're in the car and like.
Did I hang up on you?
Full on, yeah. I think I said bye. Oh wait, one more thing, and you can't do that with Pat because it's he's always on to the next.
They do actually. My nickname was. Fortunately, I've dropped it. I've melded some. It used to be Hurricane McClain.
Yeah, Hurricane McClain. And when we first started,
But my point being, I don't know how you turn this into me. You could have just slowed down getting on the air so I could make these notes. Okay, so we don't need to tell stories about when we first started, do we?
well, probably not. But I do often recall Pat back in the early days. We would do a lot of educational workshops. When we started Hansen McClain, which is now morphed into Allworth, in 1993, Pat and I were working together at another company in 1990. But we started working together in the latter part of 1991, working with Pacific Bell, which is now part of AT&T, Pacific Bell Retirees, and we did educational workshops to the employees on their retirement benefits. Right, so we were both both had business degrees, a couple years out of college, and we became experts essentially at the pension plans. We did these educational workshops, and then we would follow up with those people. I'm just being totally transparent here. Would follow up with those people to see, hopefully they'd want to come in and meet with one of us. And our hope was that we might turn some of these people into clients because we can.
Which happened for hundreds and hundreds.
Correct. It happened. That's why we're a couple hundred employees today. That's how it started. But Pat was great on the phone, following up with people afterwards because someone has to follow up with them. And we had one employee, but I would always remember Pat. I'd be in the office talking with Pat in the middle of a conversation, and he would turn around because his computer was like behind a desk. He would turn around mid-conversation, pick up the phone, and start dialing calling somebody.
Would I really?
Oh, all the time. We're in the middle of something, and which I appreciated because Pat had this sense of urgency. Like, look, there's this. We don't have enough calls, and we're not
You
gonna.
gotta. Anyway.
And so I would leave and go and have a nice dinner somewhere.
I was back in the office working. The story of my life. Anyway, thank you for listening to that. We're in this part of the show. We're going to take a couple phone calls, but we want to set aside a portion of this for the last show of the year, just for things that you should think about for your financial New Year's resolutions. Like what are the basics, whether you're 30 or 93, things that you should actually think about.
And all of us, regardless of our financial situation.
Whether you've got a ton of money or none at all, just like basics, just to revisit it, things I should actually do in the first month of the year that I should have been doing for years and years and years. And it's very similar to what my wife and my family goes through. And if you're a business, it's, you do business planning. This is the business planning for individuals and families. So,
it's funny as you're talking, I'm sitting there thinking, my wife doesn't pay much attention to the finance, but I'm thinking I should probably kind of force this and spend a few hours with my wife we're having a financial meeting for a few hours. I'm going to do that.
Are you? She doesn't get involved in.
No, it's funny because she has a degree in finance.
You met in college in
yes,
the
in
same,
a finance class.
In finance,
yes.
right?
Back then there were like 4 women in the finance class. The typical class would be 4 women and the rest would be guys. And actually, it's still the same, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I don't know why. But there was a lot of competition for her.
Oh, you feel good about yourself? Huh?
I do. I totally married up. You know me. You know my wife. You would agree with that.
I'm gonna keep that to myself. So.
We'll go through some of these when we, after we take these calls. Briefly, though, I'm going to skip this other thing. We'll talk about that.
Okay,
when we
let's
go
take some calls, and then we're going to talk about
yes,
what you should do to plan for the new year.
833-99-WORTH is the number, and we are in Indiana with Jason. Jason, you're with Allworth's Money Matters.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Super.
Simple question, kind of. I got 2 loans I need to pay off. One I pulled out a 401k loan, which may or may not be recommended, of course, and a car loan. And I'm not sure which one I want to pay off first. They're both $22,000 roughly. And
where'd you get the money to pay them off? Why do you have the cash to pay them off?
I've just been able to save up enough to do that a lot quicker than I thought I was going to.
Pay off the 401k. Here's why.
Do that one first.
When someone takes a loan on a 401k, so a loan on your car, think about it this way. Let's say you buy a car for $20,000 and you have a $10,000 loan on the car. You still have that $20,000 car, right? That you still have the whole value of that car. On a 401k, let's say you have a $20,000 401k and you borrow $10,000. You don't still own $20,000 worth of securities. The 401k actually goes and sells a bunch of securities to come up with the cash. So it's, in a sense, think of it like a withdrawal without the tax consequences, because that's pretty much what it is. So I like the idea. I don't like 401k loans at all.
In addition to that, if you have a change of employment, that loan becomes due and payable immediately. And if you can't pay it off,
or within the next 12 months,
if you can't pay it off, you actually have penalties and all taxes due on that. So I agree with Scott. I'd pay off the 401k. Now, the second question is, why did you take a loan? Why did you take these loans?
To get down 20% on a house.
Okay.
Which was for the 401k, and the car loan was to buy the car. We bought the car about 6 months before we bought the house, actually.
And how old are you?
36.
What's the value of the home?
$220, and we got a $180,000 loan on it.
I like the idea of getting the 401k paid off.
Yeah, and I don't know if I could even fight him on taking the money out of the 401k. What's your approximate family income?
What's that?
What's your approximate family income?
Take home pay 75.
Yeah, I don't think it was a bad idea to take the loan on the 401k to buy the house.
Yeah.
I tend to agree with you now.
Yeah, you're young. You know you're starting off in your career. You're going to take some risk, and try not to do it again. But I think it was a good call, especially in this
Right.
low
I
interest
appreciate
rate
it.
environment. This low interest rate environment, and you probably got under the PMI, which is why you wanted to come up
Yeah.
with 20%. Is that
That might-
correct?
Exactly.
So it might have been the
Yep.
right move.
Yeah, it was probably the right.
Yeah,
move.
probably was. As much as I hate 401k loans.
No,
There's often exceptions.
yes.
I mean, I rarely make absolute statements on financial matters.
Truly.
No,
Another
because there's
quick
always
question, though,
exceptions.
is I guess with looking at down the line, I was pitched a whole life insurance
Oh,
plan.
don't buy a whole
and
life policy. Oh.
Yeah,
No,
forget
I
that.
kind of like the idea of being able to take a loan out on that, but
Yeah.
the money to still grow.
Well,
you know what I
You
mean?
can take a loan out of any asset. Why does it have to be a whole life? You can take a loan against a stock portfolio. You can take a loan against a house or a rental property. You can take a loan against anything you want.
Yes. And with that-
There's nothing unique about a whole life policy of taking a loan, as much as the agents like to say there is.
You can have a stock portfolio. You can take a loan off against that, and they say, well, if you die, well, look, if you die, the stocks get a full step-up basis. They go on tax-free.
Tax free.
So the problem with the whole life insurance policies
It's the
is,
people who sell them.
Well, that's
No,
probably-
seriously. Most of them don't understand. No, seriously. Most of them do not understand the entire world of finance. Most of them do not. They started their career with an insurance company. Their education's all been about insurance company. All the continuing education they have on products is all coming from the home office, the manufacturers of the insurance products. And so they have this myopic view. They don't know. They haven't seen the whole world. As much as they think they have not.
We started at an insurance company, by the way.
Okay.
And if you look at what percentage of whole life policies lapse, the vast majority are not enforced the whole life.
Yeah.
And with something like 50% are lapsed within 3 years.
So, Jason,
And they've got huge surrender penalties.
you need life insurance if you have children, or there are people relying upon
Big fan
your
of life
income.
insurance.
Buy yourself some 10, 15, 20-year level term, and that's all you need to do.
Okay.
Don't buy a whole
Yeah.
life insurance policy.
I
would
appreciate
not.
that. Knock that one off the list.
I would not.
All right.
Max out your Roths before you buy any whole life. Well, don't buy any whole life.
Don't
insurance.
buy any whole life insurance.
Okay.
All right.
All
Appreciate
right.
the call.
Good luck.
Appreciate it, guys.
All right. See you, Jason. And I get a little hot.
You get a little fired up.
I do, because you see it. We all see it.
We do see it.
And it's people have owned it a couple years. They lapse it. They quit paying on it. And if you quit, they just have, they're structured
They're long surrender charges.
huge commissions.
Yes, and which is part of the reason for a surrender charge.
That's almost the entire reason for the center.
So what happens is these insurance companies have to pay these big commissions out to the people
Like-
that sell
like-
the life insurance policies.
it's like sometimes 100% of the first year premiums.
They're expensive.
So you're paying $3,000 a year in premiums. $3,000 goes to this insurance.
And the
agent for
reason
policy.
they have surrender charges is to recapture that commission, as well as the fees of underwriting the policy if you terminate it in the early years.
Right, and as long as they've got big enough surrender charges, they don't really care if you terminate it.
But term life insurance is inexpensive and easy to buy.
That's right. Let's continue on with calls, because we always enjoy taking calls. And, of course, our contact number, 833-99-WORTH, to join the show. We're talking with Sean. Sean, you're with Allworth's Money Matters.
Hi, guys. How's it going?
Good. How you doing, Sean?
I'm doing all right. My question was for you. I'm just getting at a point in my career where I'm able to max out my retirement, and I'm not quite sure about the rules because I'm a federal employee versus private, and all the knowledge I have is from the private sector. And I was told that our TSP, our thrift savings plan, doesn't have a limit on our Roth contributions. And I'm curious if that's true or not.
Well, there's tax law that goes around the TSP. It's all under the 401k program, so it has
Okay.
similar limit. It's the same limits. So I don't know how someone could say there's no. I mean, you couldn't put in $100,000 a year into your Roth, the TSP.
Correct. Of the 19.5 that we can put into a 401k, can all of that go into
Oh, yes.
a Roth versus a
Yes.
tax deductible?
Yes. 100% good.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so as far as planning for retirement, is there a benefit to putting it into the traditional tax deductible side or the Roth?
Can be. It can be. It depends on what your income is today, what you believe it's going to be in the future, whether you're in a
Okay.
high tax state today, whether you'll retire
But
into a
also,
low tax state
it
in the
also
future.
has to do with if you take a before tax, you save money on taxes today. The question is, what do you do with those dollars? If you spend those dollars on an annual vacation or going out to dinner or on a wine collection, let's assume you drink all the wine, then it's wasted.
So Scott, dig into that a little bit, because how does the average listener to this radio show or podcast understand that?
Well, so here's one way. Let's say you contribute $10,000. Let's say the only money you save, Sean, is in your 401k. You're like most Americans. You spend what comes through the checkbook. Okay? So you save it in your 401k, and you like it because it gets sucked out of your paycheck before you have a chance to spend it. If you
Exactly.
right? I mean, that's if you put it in on a before tax basis, you get a tax deduction of a couple $1,000 a year. So your take-home pay for the calendar year will be a couple $1,000 more because of the tax deduction you're receiving. If you put it into the Roth, you don't get the tax deduction.
So if I put
So your
$10,000,
take-home would be a couple $1,000 less. So if you assume we're in a higher tax bracket today than we will be in the future, and if you take the tax savings and you save it rather than spend it, the before tax options is going to make the most sense. On the other hand, if you will spend the tax savings, regardless of your future tax rate, if you're going to spend it, you'd be better off with the Roth.
So if I put money in, deduct it, and I'm in a 35% marginal rate when I pull it out, 20 years from now, that's still the same $10,000. I will have a net spendable income of $6,500. If I put it in a Roth and I pull it out, the $10,000, and there's no taxes, I'll have a net spendable income of $10,000. So not only is it tax that drives it, but Scott is 100% right. It's your behavior that actually drives this.
Which isn't talked about very often, but that's
it's not.
If you get to retirement and you've got $1 million in a taxable retirement account or $1 million in a Roth taxable retirement account, I mean, they're two totally different numbers. They're not the same at all.
Because you have to measure things on an after tax, because that's how the only way you're going to be able to spend them.
What's your family income
after tax?
Family income right now between myself and my girlfriend is right around $200,000.
Your girlfriend, so you're not filing married.
Not filed married yet.
So
no. So mine is $150 for the year.
And you're in California.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, the first thing you need to do is find a girlfriend that makes more money. Joking.
How old are you?
I'm 31.
150. Do you own a home?
Not yet. Currently saving $2,000 a month on top of my retirement towards a home.
Good for you. You're a good saver.
It's thanks to the girlfriend, honestly.
I would use California is an extremely high tax state. You're in a high tax bracket in California. I would take the before tax.
Okay.
I would as well.
At this stage.
And
you're a good saver. The fact that you're saving well tells me, remember, I kind of came back to, if that tax savings is wasted, then you're better off taking the Roth.
And what's wrong with him making a Roth contribution now and using that for the purchase of the home? What's the limit?
He can't do that. He can do a non-deductible.
And then convert to a Roth.
Which I'm also saving enough to do the backdoor Roth.
Yeah, I like that idea. I do the before tax and the 401k, and then I do the backdoor Roth.
All right.
Good job.
That answers my question.
And you can reevaluate this every few years, right? As things change.
Great saver.
Yeah.
All right. Good luck to you.
Thank you very much, you guys.
Thanks.
Good saver. Sounds like he just started becoming a good saver, though.
With the girlfriend.
Changes. I became much more responsible after I met my wife than before I was.
Oh, gosh.
Right?
I tell you, I'm grateful for the wife I've got. I don't know.
I wouldn't be here.
I don't know what my life would be like. I mean, I don't always make the best choices, and I get a little carried away on certain things at times.
Probably would have windsurfed and snowboarded and snow skied over the last.
You know, it reminds me, I don't know if I've mentioned this on the air, and if I've told this story before, tell me to shut up. But years ago, I'm meeting with this couple. They were maybe 10 years away from retirement. Both had professionals, and we're in there. We're doing some planning for them, and they're good savers and whatnot. And they had 3 kids, 3 adult children. They're all in their 20s, I believe. And they were talking about their kids. 2 were very responsible, and they had good jobs in the 401k. And then the one lived in Latin America, and he'd worked like 3 months out of the year, just enough to kind of survive. And then he'd windsurf or whatever he would do, just kind of cruise, right?
Enjoy life.
Yeah, right. And so they were talking about how frustrated they are with this one son who's just not putting money towards his retirement and all this. And I'm sitting there thinking about it. I said, maybe he's the one who's got it figured out. Maybe we're the fools here. We go overcomplicate things. We got all these investments saved up, and
what did they say?
Well, we all kind of chuckled about it. Yeah. There's all part of it.
That was 20 years ago. He's living with his parents now.
I don't know, actually. I should ask about that kid.
How he's doing? Well, the people go through stages in life, obviously.
Yeah. Anyway. All right, Pat. So we had mentioned before these last couple calls that we were going to talk about some things to consider for New Year's.
Yeah, and things that actually you should be doing on an ongoing basis. But it's interesting. So when we track our own business, January and February are the busiest months of the year for us in terms of people inquiring into our firm about what we do.
Not the first week in January, but...
Correct. Yeah. But and part of it is because people actually, at the beginning of the new year, like, let's refocus on the things that are important to us. And oftentimes it's health and wealth. So you go to the gym. By the way, the first 2 weeks of the year at the gym are oftentimes the most crowded and lots of new and familiar faces. But if you're a regular...
And I would imagine the weight loss programs, since they get more members at the beginning of the year.
Yeah. So,
and then come mid-February, our resolutions are all flown by the wayside.
Yeah, and the gym is nice again when all those people leave.
That is not encouraging to those that are considering...
Yeah, it's as is with anything, it's consistency over long periods of time. So New Year's, you want to look at your debt. You want to look at personal debt. You want to look at debt that is collateralized debt, and you want to look at the cost of the debt. So personal debt is anything that credit cards, it would be considered a personal debt. Collateralized debt are automobile debt and home debt, right? Home mortgages. Or boats, right? So in those things, if you've got personal debt, just get rid of it. That is the highest cost of money. If you can. And if you can't, then
get a plan together to get rid of it.
To get rid of it. If you've got collateralized debt, which means collateralized, there is something that is...
Or against, a lot of the big brokerage firms like to do is have people borrow against their securities. Why not really margin loans? Because they make money off it.
But I never understood that, Scott. I mean, especially if you have cash holdings or bond holdings in your portfolio that's paying less than the cost of the money on the loans.
That's why you need to take a good look. And if you find that you've got assets paying less, and if you own any fixed income, you're going to have any high quality, shorter term fixed income is going to be paying less than what you're paying on a loan today. You got to ask yourself, why in the world do you have a loan? Why are you paying for the privilege of having a loan when you don't need it?
And that includes home loans, automobile loans, boat loans, right? Yes. So that's it. So look at the debt and just do an analysis. Look at each one of it and then make decisions. Asset allocation?
It's a perfect time of year to look at your overall portfolio because last year was a great year for the stock market.
2019.
Yeah, this last year.
Yeah.
So, I said...
You said last year.
All right, well, we're doing New Year's goals, even if it's the last Saturday, last weekend in the year. So if you've had some stocks, you are now, unless you've reallocated along the way, rebalanced along the way, you are going to be overweighted. So it's a great time. You might have your money invested in such a manner with an advisor of some sort where it's being rebalanced for you. If not, take a look at your overall allocation because you're probably more overweighted more in stocks now. And stocks are, frankly, the higher prices go up, the more risk there is, not the less risk.
And it's hard for people to actually do this emotionally.
Why would you want to sell something that's doing so well?
Correct, right? Why would you sell something that's doing well? Shouldn't I sell the thing that's not doing well, right? But because
Nothing's doing, it's all it's past tense.
the mere fact that we actually can measure it means it's already taken
That's correct.
place. So the reason you reallocate portfolio is not necessarily to actually increase your return. It's to understand the risk that's in the portfolio. So when you reallocate or rebalance a portfolio, you're selling those things that have done well and buying those things that have done less well. And if history tells us anything, its cycles will actually cause asset classes to move not in tandem, but opposite each other for long periods of time. So that's why you want to reallocate the portfolio, rebalance it. The other thing you want to look at is, hey, are you putting enough or as much as you can into your savings plans, including
If you're not retired,
your 401ks, 403bs, 457s? Are you putting enough money into your regular savings on a regular basis? Are you actually funding your Roths or IRAs at the appropriate amount? Can you do more? Can you do more? Next thing you want to look at is, do I have any major purchases coming up? And if I do, how am I going to pay for those? What is a major purchase?
well, could be your kid's college,
That's a purchase.
could be a car,
Purchase.
could be a big vacation,
Purchase. So
could be a new roof, could be, as I'm dealing with right now, new heating and air conditioning.
why'd you say that on the air? You're going to just get pinged with all kinds of people now selling you heating and air.
If you ping me after this, I'm not buying from you. How's that?
Okay. Major purchase. And then the last thing you want to look at is your overall financial goal. What is your plan?
What's the objective with these dollars?
Is your objective to
Regardless of where you are, what's your financial objective? What are your financial objectives? What are you trying to accomplish? What would you like to accomplish? Is it retirement you're trying to fund? If you're planning on retirement, is it maintaining retirement? Is it having money left for your kids? Is it endowing some sort of charity?
is it
What
working
the-
till the day you die and pushing as much money downstream as possible? You have to ask yourself that question in order to. You need to know where you're going if you want to get there.
And setting those goals is the foundation, the bedrock to having some financial security. It really is. And if you talk to anybody who is financially independent at retirement age, it started by having some of these goals. So it's been great being with you. It's been a great 2019. We so much appreciate the support that you bring to us. We so enjoy being with you. Enjoy your New Year's. We'll see you in 2020. This has been Allworth's Money Matters.
This program has been brought to you by Allworth Financial, a registered investment advisory firm. Any ideas presented during this program are not intended to provide specific financial advice. You should consult your own financial advisor, tax consultant, or estate planning attorney to conduct your own due diligence.